Welcome everybody. Today we have Miss Julia Frank with us. She's an accountant who's been working in Dallas, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her job.
Yeah, thanks, Whit. So I've been an accountant for, I guess, almost 10 years, which is crazy. And accounting it's kind of like storytelling, to make it sound a little more exciting and kind of put it in common terms. But basically, you're storytelling from like a finance numbers standpoint. And so kind of one main path is working in industry, and that's where you're going through kind of your day-to-day transactions. So when the company buys something or sells something, we basically record entries so that way we can kind of tell the story of what's happening. And then another career path within accounting, which we can kind of talk about more later, is the audit side, where they're checking and making sure that that story is accurate. So
Awesome. So how did you choose this job?
So honestly, it's always so hard. I feel like making life decisions, especially when you're like 18, 19. But I was always interested in the business world. I think part of that is just both of my parents were in that business world, whether it be sales or whatnot. But the one thing I really liked about accounting was just the job stability. I also really like numbers and interacting with people. And I feel like in accounting, you work on teams a lot. You obviously work with numbers a lot, but it is nice having that job stability aspect of it. So that was a big driver, I think, in terms of picking what I wanted within the business world.
Did you know when you were in middle school or high school that this is the career route you would go down?
Absolutely not. No. I would say in middle school, I wanted to be like a cashier. So I like numbers. So that's kind of related. Um, and then that progressed. At one point, I was interested in teaching. And then, yeah, I settled on accounting much later. But yeah, I think the money is decent. The hours are not terrible and good job stability. But yeah, it definitely, it grew over time. It's not like I knew I wanted to be an accountant in middle school. I don't even know if I knew what an accountant was in middle school.
Well, hopefully these middle schoolers are going to find out. How many different types of jobs are in your field? You discussed kind of at the beginning that there's multiple paths you can go down. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, there's a lot. And so I guess I can talk kind of about my career path since I've kind of jumped through a couple different jobs. Um, and then we can also talk about tax accounting, which is another animal, which is probably what most people think of when they think of accounting. So for me, straight from college, I went and joined, it's called a public accounting company. And so I was in the audit group of this public accounting firm. And so basically, all public companies are required to have financial statements. That's kind of like their story, right? How they did for the year. And public companies have to be audited, meaning a third party has to come in and they'll do procedures to verify that that information is correct. And so that was my first career path, was the audit side. So I had several different clients that I would go to. I had teams that I worked with, and different kind of parts of the financial statements that I was in charge of, whether it was property, plant and equipment, or cash, or revenue. And so I would be in charge of basically kind of verifying that what the company said they had as revenue was accurate. And so that's a lot of sampling, a lot of working with the client, asking a lot of questions. Plus, you have a lot of fun in the audit room because it's a lot of young people go into public accounting, and so it's like if it's a fast-paced environment, but work hard, play hard is kind of the atmosphere. So it was a good place to start. But that was kind of from the fact checking audit aspect. So I did that for a few years, and it's a lot of work. Like I said, work hard, play hard. And so I wanted something a bit more conducive to family and better work-life balance. And so I jumped ship and went over to the industry, meaning I went over and now I'm working at one of those big companies that I used to audit. And so now on this side of the world, I do things like forecasting. And so we'll forecast revenues and expenses. We'll compare how actuals came into those revenue, the forecasted numbers, and have to kind of understand what's driving differences. And then also, you probably don't know when I say journal entries, but journal entries are a way to record business transactions in number format to help paint that picture. So now I'm on the storytelling side and I get audited by a third party. Anyway, so it's like come full circle. But so that's kind of, you can do the public account path where you're auditing big companies, making sure what they are reporting is correct. You can actually work for those companies, big or small, to make sure you're painting a correct story. And also you do a bit more like forecasting and problem solving, technical research type stuff. Or you can do taxes, which I honestly don't even do my own taxes, which is embarrassing to say because everyone thinks that like I know tax questions because I'm an accountant, but I don't. So tax is like a whole different ball game. And there are tax people that work for big companies. There are tax people that do help with personal tax returns for people like you and me. So yeah, there's a ton of different job opportunities within accounting. And what's about accounting is you can kind of hop from one to the next. So like I did, maybe you start in audit and you do that for a while, you learn a lot, you learn what industries you like, and you can jump ship and actually go to a specific industry. So now I work at BNSF Railway, which is a railroad company. It's honestly really interesting, but there's so many options, which I think is something that's really attractive about accounting.
Yes, students, we still have railways.
I know. They're going strong. Well, COVID's hurt a little bit, but
So you normally work in a group for these projects?
Yes. So within public accounting, you're on audit teams. And even the tax folks, I think, work in teams as well. But so I would have, there'd be like 3 or 4 associates on my team, and we would report to a senior associate, and then we had a manager, very kind of triangular, like, anyway, but yeah, we would hang out in the audit room and each of us would be responsible for our own piece of the puzzle. And so we'd work some and then chat some and then work some more. And especially like with audit at year end, it's really busy because you're trying the full year, you're doing your audit of the full year. And so for January, February, you're very busy. And it was really nice, like having kind of a built-in group of best friends because we were together a lot. And so that was fun. So we worked in teams there. And then even now at BNSF, I work in our property accounting group. And I have a team of 5 people that I work with closely on a day-to-day basis. And then I have kind of a bigger team that I'm a part of as well. So we actually chat with each other. We're not like boring number crunchers who don't talk to anyone. It's fun.
Well, good. It sounds like a fun job, a lot of social interaction as well. Can you live and work anywhere in the U.S. with this job?
Yes. So wherever there are businesses, there's a need for accountants. And so, I mean, you can literally work anywhere. And I think even with COVID too, a lot of companies are getting more comfortable with people working remote. So you might be able to live, I don't know, somewhere really cool like Colorado and be working for a company based out of Texas. But yeah, wherever there's businesses, they need accountants. And then from a tax side, wherever there's people, they need accountants. So, I mean, you can do this anywhere.
That's awesome. And are there any limitations to your personal or your social life with the nature of your work?
I would say not really. So more so in public accounting, which is a great place to start your career, but it's very fast paced. And so whenever I worked there at year end, so for a month to 2 months of the year, I worked some weekends, but a lot of late nights. Like we would order dinner up there. Very fast paced though, and it does look good on your resume, and it can help you kind of propel you to a good industry job. And so that's part of why I did that. And then now at BNSF, I'm a senior manager, so I have people that report to me. It's a good stable job, but I have great work-life balance. Like I work Monday through Friday. Fridays I normally try to cut out a little early, but from like 7:30 to 4:30, 8 to 5, like just kind of your normal work day. And then year end is a little busier for me. So
Mhm.
I might work one Saturday at year end, but it's totally manageable. Yeah, it's good. Good balance for
Great.
sure.
So does your job take any specific talents or skills?
Yeah, so I think from a skill set standpoint, you have to be personable. You need to be able to ask questions. The job I'm in now, I actually do like research, I would say at least a little bit each month. So different accounting questions might come up, like how do we account for a certain transaction? And so I have to look at guidance to make sure we account for stuff correctly. So I think being able to ask questions, to do research, and then we work in Excel a lot. So if you're proficient in Excel, that helps. It'll help you be more efficient at your job. And then outside of that, from a licensing standpoint, I'm a CPA, so that's a certified public accountant. To do an accounting job, it's not necessarily required, but I will say it is highly encouraged. And if you want to progress upward, you'll want to have that. Um, Not to say you can't progress at all without it, but you'll certainly hit a limit to that progression. But yeah.
Okay. And do you feel like this is a job that's good for, um, it's open to both men and women being a part of it, and
Yes.
we have an equal balance of men and women right now?
100%. Actually, the team that I'm on is all girls, but you see a lot of guys in accounting, finance. Yeah, I actually met my husband in public accounting, so there's plenty of guys out there and girls.
Awesome. So now I'm going to ask you some questions about the education and training that it takes. You told us a little bit about that with your exams. But does this job require a high school, community college, four-year degree? And what is the path you need to take?
Yeah. So I would say you can probably do like a very entry level job with even a 2-year college degree. Now you'd probably be doing like accounts payable. They call them like an accounts payable clerk. And so it's manual, but you're tracking documents, like you're getting invoices from other companies, and you make sure that we're paying those invoices on time. So that could be an example of a job with a couple years of education. If you get a 4-year degree, that will set yourself up for a bit more flexibility in terms of what you can do in the accounting field. And then on top of that, if you get, it's a 1 year's master's program, and then you have to sit for the CPA exam. Um, and so a lot of colleges have kind of a built-in 5-year program where you'll do your undergrad plus that grad school year, and they'll prep you for the CPA exam. And so that's one route as well. And that obviously gives you even more flexibility in terms of what you can do and how high you can climb. But there's jobs at probably like every level of education. But I would say a 2-year degree would be a must. A 4-year would be encouraged. And then anything on top of that just helps.
All right. And what was your favorite class when going through college?
Yeah. Oh man. So in grad school, so the 1-year program that I did, there were actually some cool classes. One, we went and we stayed abroad. And so that was like a 2-week thing over Christmas break. And we went to Germany, France, London, and Brussels. And so that was phenomenal. And then my other favorite class was business law, which we also took in the master's program. But the professor was so fun and he was like really interactive and engaging. Anyway, it was great.
Oh, well, that sounds like
It's been a while, but it's been like 10 years since
hard to,
college.
I know it's hard to think back to when you're in college, let alone when you're in middle school and high school. It's like, what was I doing back then?
I know, living the dream.
Yes, students enjoy it. It was a good time. So in a normal week, how many days a week do you work and how many hours a day now?
Yeah, so I work on average 5 days a week. And I'd say I work like 40 to 45 hours. So pretty good work-life balance. My husband, though, he's also a CPA, and his company, it's so company dependent. His
Mhm.
company has every other Friday off, so he's off today. But yeah, I would say on average, like 40 to 45 hours. And then at year end, you may have a couple weeks where it bumps up a little, but
That makes sense.
manageable.
And do you get your vacations? How often do you get vacations?
Yeah. So when you're in public accounting, you get all kinds of vacation. In industry, I get 3 weeks of vacation plus they give us 2 weeks of sick time. And so some people use sick time for vacation, but yeah, so 3 full weeks. So my husband and I are actually we're going to go to Arizona for a little trip this November just to get out and about. Um, but yeah, 3 weeks is pretty good. And then they also give us a lot of holidays. So like we have Thanksgiving and Black Friday off, and we have Christmas Eve and Christmas off, and New Year's Eve and New Year's, and then we randomly get President's Day. So yeah, you've got some good opportunity for like travel, well, when it's not 2020, and fun things to mix in.
Yeah. Okay, so the last two questions are just going to be about kind of the finances of this type of job. And so, what is the normal salary of somebody going into this job?
Yeah, so it kind of varies. I would say if you start off with your like 4-year degree and mostly masters, you'll come in like around 50,000, I would say, from like a starting salary.
Mhm.
Uh, Now it varies. It varies on, where you go. If you start with public accounting or industry, public accounting, I think starts around there and it bumps up pretty quickly,
Mhm.
but you're working a lot. Industry might start a little bit higher, but you don't get as aggressive pay increases. But I mean, you can make up to, I don't even want to put a limit on it because you can make some people like CFOs and stuff make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but
Wow.
on average, I'd say from 50,000 would be like a starting and up to 120, 150. Like for somebody at like a mid manager level could probably make 120 to 150. So
Awesome. That sounds great. And how has the pandemic affected your job and environment?
yeah, that's a good question. So I feel like every company is different. So with the railroad industry, the railroad is really dependent on the economy.
Mhm.
So if our economy is down, we're not moving as many volumes, so we're not making as much revenue. Um, it's caused a lot of layoffs from an operations standpoint. So the fellows that are actually operating on the railroad, from an accounting standpoint, they still need us. And so we haven't seen layoffs of that kind. So it's honestly like it's really stable, the accounting industry in general. So that's, yeah, a big plus. One less thing to stress about, I would say, but
Always good to hear. Um, and so if there's a student, in middle school and high school that maybe is interested in doing this or thought maybe, someday this could be an option for them, what advice would you have for them?
yeah, I would say kind of don't be afraid to like, first off, don't be afraid to reach out. So if you You can give them my email if you want to reach out to me, or if you have a friend's parent who works in the business world, even if it's not accounting, don't be afraid to ask questions. And then I just think like focus on your education and have a good time growing up, because you only get to be a kid once. But if you just keep focusing on your education, I feel like the opportunities are huge, whether it's accounting or any other career choice. But
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing with us today. Students, remember to complete your 2-minute survey. It will be at the end of this video as well as in the bio. And thank you for joining us today. We will see you next time. And thank you, Ms. Frank.
thank you. Bye, guys.